Welcome to Kletus Ray's Roadside Service. We are having a good one. Real good one today, fellas and fellettes. Monday. It is 8:25 in the morning. Just now leaving the shop. Really don't have a whole lot going on today, so we should be all right. But I had a wonderful weekend. Kind of. It could have been better. But there were some things that I got done that I didn't really want to get done, but I got them done. And it all revolves around the old DR650. And I'm just so happy with it that that's all I want to talk about and look at on my phone now is just dirt bike stuff. Um yeah, so rode the dirt bike in uh Wednesday and then rode it home on Friday. I was out of town, running this route or whatever. Friday, I hop on it at work. I mean, it fires right up, and I take it, you know, cruising home, taking back roads and whatnot, having a great time on the bike. And I kept thinking about, doing the suspension upgrade to the stiff suspension. My uncle, he bought a DR650 and it had a really heavy duty suspension put on it because the guy that owned it before him, I guess he was a little bit heavy, but he had a lot of gear also. So he was like, "Yeah, I want to spring it, so I can have like saddlebags on it, another big box, it got the big fuel tank, and all kinds of other bullshit on his bike." And my uncle rode his bike for a couple of days, and he decided he needed new suspension. He's like, it's too stiff for him, and he doesn't have all that shit on there. He has the big fuel tank, but that's really about it, and a nice luggage rack. But he doesn't. He's like, I don't need. He's like, it's not performing well for him, and he used to race. Um, he actually raced quite often. And but so he wasn't doing supercross or nothing. He was racing like those trail riding races or whatever. So there would be like flags hanging from trees or whatever, and other like caution tape and whatnot. And he would just him and a bunch of another class of dirt bike riders, same class as him, and other classes, but the high class starts first. Then the next class, there's A class, AA class, and then B class. And he was in the B class, just because he kept, and that's where he wanted to be. I don't know. He was pretty fucking good though. Anyways, what I'm saying is he knows what he wants out of his bike, and that suspension wasn't it. So he ripped it all out, and he's like, "You can have it if you want it." He's like, "It'll probably be perfect for you." And I'm like, "Cool, I'll do that." And I've had it sitting in my garage for a while now, and I just haven't done it because I was a little bit intimidated. I didn't want to, the bike rode and did everything I wanted it to do, and it felt like a Cadillac. It was just super cush riding around. I did raise it up as high as I could, but that stock suspension was so soft compared to what this is. So Saturday, I went ahead and swapped out. Well, no, it was Friday night. Friday night when I got home, I went ahead and I swapped out that rear spring, and that involved taking the seat, the tank, the side panels, the air box, all that out, and then I was able to unbolt everything. Everything was everything was really kind of hard to get to, really, but I was able to get it all. And the hardest part of the whole thing was lifting the bike up. So I don't have a dirt bike stand. I really want to get one. But I had cinder blocks. I have 3 cinder blocks sitting in the corner of my garage. So I grabbed 2 of them, stacked them up, and then, I mean, it took all of my the DR650s are not light bikes, but it took a lot of muscles or whatever to try to get that motherfucker lifted up and on the center blocks, and then scoot it over and everything without dropping the bike and everything. But I got it up there, got it all torn apart, got the old spring out, and I had seen a couple of videos, but I didn't really follow along to them. I just I was like, I'll figure it out as I go. And I saw everything I needed to do. It did involve, once you get the bike up in the air, you got to lift up that rear axle or the rear swing arm a little bit once you get to that last bolt, or else you're not going to be able to slide it out. It's got all the weight of the swing arm hanging down on it. These motherfuckers. We have a solid white line. You're not supposed to pass the solid white line. And this fucking tow truck just straight up cut the white line. And then, when you got somebody like me trying to follow the rules, I'm like, well, now you're in my way, The fuck, man. I understand Kansas City's kind of a bitch to get through sometimes, but God dang it, man. Anyways, getting the old spring out, it's got 2 lock rings at the top, collar locks. I don't know what they exactly call them, but I had to run those up. And I had to run those up before I took the spring out. I don't know why. I don't think I needed to do that, but I did. Just so I could move the swing arm, I guess. And it wouldn't have spring pushing on it. I don't know. But I got it out, and got the new spring. And the new spring is Race Tech. It's a pretty reputable brand, and it came off another DR650. But this one was a little bit shorter than the original spring that I had, but it was way stiffer. And the little collar, the bottom collar, it's got like a little, kind of like a top hat looking thing, but the top of the hat is all cut out or whatever. Anyways, that goes up into the spring, and I could not get that bitch into the spring for the life of me. So I called my uncle a couple times. I'm like, hey, did you have like trouble with your ring, trying to get it in, get it out, whatever. And he said, no, it should just pop right in there. He was telling me put the spring in the oven and put the little collar thing in the freezer and leave them in there and then just do it in the morning. But I said, fuck that. I ain't doing that shit. I just put everything back together, and I got that collar to kind of fit, but I could not get it in there. I was hammering on it, but hammering on a spring is kind of fucking weird. If I had I was thinking if I had this workbench, it's just like a half-inch piece of steel tabletop. I could have slid the ring on there and then hammered and not have the spring being all bouncy and whatnot. But I didn't have that, so I just got it in there as much as I could, put it all back together, and I said, as I ride this thing, it'll probably pop down in there and be just fine. So that's what I did. Put the spring all back together, put the top collars down as far as I could go, and got everything put back together. And then I was like, well, I don't want to take it off the stand until I get the fronts done. So I waited until Sunday. That was really all the work I did, other than putting it all back together and everything. And then on Sunday, I said, all right, I'm going to take the handlebars off. Just lay them up forward. I'm not taking any controls off or anything like that. I'm just going to push it up forward, take the handlebars off, and I can take the caps off of the top of the fork tubes, and I did. I was hoping the damn thing wasn't gonna spring out and have a bunch of washers and shit or whatever. But no, it did spring up, but it did nothing flew out, so that was good. And it had the stock. I don't know if these are stock springs or not. I have no idea. I'm guessing they are, but I don't know. Anyways, um, they were the same exact height and everything as the heavy duty ones that I was putting in there. So the heavy duty is in there, and there was a 2 inch spacer. No, not 2 inch, inch and a half spacer in there. Uh, and people add those to add a little bit of stiffness to the ride or whatever. So the stock springs had the 1.5 inch spacers on top of them, and I tried my damnedest to make those 1.5 inch spacers fucking fit. I was pushing down on the cap because you got to push it down and then try to twist it and catch a thread or two, and then you can put a socket on there and then actually wrench that cap down. But I mean, these his springs up front were fucking heavy duty. I could get it down there, but I could not get it to twist. And I tried using a ratchet, tried using a wrench. There wasn't really anything I could like use as a pry bar to kind of pry it down and hold it. So, anyways, what a lot of people do is they just have metal tubing or PVC is what I've heard also, but I'm not big on the PVC stuff because that fork oil, if you have good fork seals and everything, that fork oil shouldn't really get dirty. And mine was pretty fucking clean. So, and I didn't want to swap out fork oil. That would involve me taking the forks completely out, meaning taking the front wheel off and taking the brakes apart and all that stuff. And then it's not that hard of a job to do, but I was like, all I want to do is swap out the spring. And whatever fork oil is in there is plenty and good. I don't have any leaks or anything. I guess I should have checked the levels to make sure they were both the same, but they're pretty fucking close. And as I was pulling the spring out, I let everything drip down in there. I did lose a little bit, but not much. And yeah, put the heavy duty springs in there, and I could not get the fucking spacers to go. So I cut some new ones. I cut 1 inch spacers. And I had a piece of pipe that was perfect, but I didn't have a pipe cutter that would fit it. Like the little thing that you tighten on it and you roll it around there and it'll fucking cut the pipe. I had two of them and they were decent size, but they were just not big enough to cut this, piece of pipe that I had. So I ended up finding some other smaller piping that I could fit and cut because I tried to hacksawing it. I tried to hacksaw the bigger tube, but I didn't cut it straight. And if you don't cut it straight, you'll never get those fucking threads on because as you're pushing it down, it's going to be at an angle. So it has to be perfectly straight. And the only way I knew to get it perfectly straight was either file that bitch down for fucking ever and try to get it straight, or just get a smaller piece of tube that I can use my tube cutter on, and that's going to cut it in a perfectly straight line. So that's what I ended up doing. But that tube is a lot smaller than the other tube, and it was going to fit and be fine, but I found some other washers that I could put in there. So I had 1 inch, and then I had 2 extra washers that I put in there that were bigger flange, so everything would be pretty fucking level. And I was able to push that down and get it tightened up. And I couldn't run it without a spacer because then there would be slack in there. There would be, I guess not dead zone. I guess dead zone. I don't know what you call it, but there would be slack in there where the spring isn't. It needs to be compressed a little bit. So, anyways, I could have cut down spacers, probably 3/4 inch spacers, and probably would have been a little easier to do. But I want this to be pretty stiff. I want a stiff ride. I'm a heavy dude. I want it to be pretty fucking heavy duty. I don't want to bottom out, and I don't want. I mean, I do like the Cadillac ride with the old suspension. But I mean, having a big fat guy looking like I'm on a lower DR, whenever I sit, it's fully extended whenever it's sitting there on the kickstand. As soon as I sit on it, the sag, I'm just squatting that motherfucker. So, and even that's even with it raised all the way. So, got the fork springs done, got the rear spring done. Everything is ready to go. I get the bike put completely back together, wheel it out of the garage. I hop on it, and it will not fire up. And I'm like, well, that's weird, because I didn't do anything to anything related to the engine whatsoever. I was like, maybe I pinched a wire, maybe I did unplug a wire and I forgot to plug something in, but everything's acting like it should. It's just not firing. Um, and I don't know. I tried looking it over. I didn't look it over all the way like I should have. But luckily, my neighbor, I know he's a mechanic, small engine mechanic, big engine mechanic. He works on anything and everything. And he's got a couple of nice bikes that he's built in his garage too. So I called him up. Luckily, he was home. He's like, "Yeah, wheel it on over." So I wheeled it on over to his house. And so whenever it would like crank, like it had a good crank, and then it would slowly like, and then it was just like the battery was dead. He said, I think it's or not vapor locking, hydro locking. So then he's like looking at my oil. He's like, dude, how much oil did you put in this thing? I'm like, should I added a little bit the other day, but not that much. And he's like, dude, this is like watery shit in here. So he cracked open the fill plug, gave her a little sniff. He's like, dude, that's all gas. He's like, you got a lot of gas in your oil. He's like, what happens is your carburetor must be a little bit dirty and your needle isn't seating. So whenever you let it sit there with the petcoat on, it's just filling your cylinder with gasoline, and then it's getting by your rings because piston rings, they all have like a little bit of a little tiny gap, but not much, um, enough to let fuel drain down into your oil. He's like, do not try to start this anymore until you drain that oil out, turn off your fuel, and um, you're gonna have to clean your carb and change the oil and everything. I was like, all right, will do. So took it back over to my house, drained the oil out, and yeah, there's a lot in there, and it was a lot of gas, and it was pretty fucking dark. So I guess I kind of cleaned the engine out pretty good, probably. I don't know. Um, put a little gas in the oil to kind of break down some carbon or whatever, I guess. I don't know. But that cannot be good for the clutches because it's got a wet clutch. So that means the engine oil also lubricates the transmission and the clutch and everything. So, and having gasoline in there is probably not good for the clutches or whatever. I don't know if it causes premature wear or if it could cause any other damage, but the hydro locking could definitely cause damage where um, you could bend a rod, your piston rod, if there's too much fuel in there and you're trying to start it and it's trying to compress, but it's not, if it's on the compression stroke and it's trying to compress too much, things, bad things can happen. You can bend a valve, you can fill your exhaust with gasoline, which I think I did because it smelled a little weird. But anyways, I drained the oil out, ran up to the store, picked up some Rotella. I don't know why. I just decided Rotella is what I wanted to go with. Really, I like the EC Star. It's Suzuki branded. They sell the kit online. It comes with 3 quarts and a filter, and it's a new crush washer, and it's made for, it's a kit made for that bike. So that's what I'd like to use, and probably what I'll be swapping it with next. I just didn't have time to sit and wait for Amazon or whoever to bring me new oil, because that's where I got it last time for my last oil change. So, and I didn't have a new oil filter either, but I was like, this is going to be a quick oil change here anyways. This is just a quick little, change the oil. I'm going to let it run. There's obviously still going to be a little traces of gasoline in there, even though I drained it all out. Run some different oil in there, clean it out, and then change it again. So I'm thinking this next weekend I'll change it again. I'm only going to have a couple of rides on it, so that'll be good. It'll be like 120 miles, maybe, roughly. And I don't think that's bad for an oil change, but the oil already looks pretty dark, so I know there was some contaminants still left in there. And not changing out the oil filter is another thing, because it can, I don't know if it gets trapped in the oil filter, but I don't know. Anyways, did a nice oil change on the bike. I said, all right, we're good. Things are good now. And I roll it out in the driveway. I didn't put it all the way together yet. I rolled it out in the driveway. Still nothing. Still not firing. I'm like, son of a bitch, what the hell's wrong with this thing, but it ended up being a low battery, and I guess the battery can have enough voltage to run the starter, but it doesn't have enough voltage to run the starter and enough spark to the spark plugs at the same time. So a couple of things I looked at, they said, oh yeah, you need to charge up your battery. You have a low battery, just because it's turning over doesn't mean it's always getting spark from the battery. You gotta always charge it up, whatever. So I don't have a battery charger. I just have little plug-in bullshits and whatnot. I don't even have a voltmeter or nothing. And so I was kind of like, damn it, dude. So I looked up, there's a Harbor Freight nearby, so went over there and bought a battery charger for $45. Not bad, actually. It's brand new, pretty decent little battery charger. Like, it's an old school looking one. And they had like a newer school. I don't know if it was I don't know if you charge it up and then you can use it as a jump pack. I don't know. But it was a little bit more expensive and a lot smaller and looked like it was pretty cool, but I don't know. I was like, I'll just go with the old school. The old school, you're not gonna have problems with that. The other one was like digital and whatnot. So I don't know. And it's Harbor Freight. You can't really expect everything to be pretty good and last a long time. So I just decided to go with that battery charger. Took it home, pulled the battery out, sat it on the charge. It only took like 15 minutes on the middle setting or whatever. There's like trickle charge, regular, and then there's like the start or whatever. But charged it up, threw it in. It did have a little bit of trouble firing up, but I think that was because I had taken the tank off a couple of times. Oh yeah, and I had to clean the car, but I didn't even talk about that. So yeah, anyways, did the oil change, and then I had to clean the carb out because the carb was obviously letting fuel get into, just feeding it straight into the fucking intake and shit. And also my the tube that goes from my carb to my air box had a bunch of gas in it too. So I was like, shit, had to pull everything apart. I didn't have to pull the air box, but that little tube that goes from the air box to the carb is kind of a bitch to get in there, but I got that pulled out, and then I was able to undo all the linkages, the choke. It's got two throttle cables, one for pulling, one for pushing, I guess. I don't know. just so whenever if you push the throttle forward, it instead of it just binding up the throttle cable, it will actually pull the throttle down or whatever. Not a big deal. A couple of little vacuum lines, vent lines, or whatever. Pulled it out, pulled the bowl off, and yeah, right there, at the float, whenever I pulled the float off, it's just got O-rings or whatever. It's not screwed on. Just has little O-rings that you push, and it stays where it's supposed to be. On the other side of that, it looked like there was a little piece of plastic, like a tiny little piece of cellophane or something, stuck in there. So I got that yanked out, and I guess I should have taken the float apart a little bit further, but I didn't. I just saw that. I pulled that out, made sure everything else was pretty clean, which it was. I mean, it was not a dirty carb at all. It was pretty fucking clean. Pulled the top part off where there's like vacuum rubber thing or whatever, diaphragm. Looked at that. It was a little bit dirty, but nothing bad. And put it all back together and threw it on there. Hooked up my fuel line. I did get a new fuel line. My old fuel line was a little bit hard, and I could see it seeping past a little bit. So luckily, I had some more fuel line stuffed away in the garage, and got a little piece of that, make it a little elbow, and put that on there. Didn't put it all back together. Put it out there and fired right up. Well, it took a little bit, but it did fire up, and rode it around. But I'm just on my neighborhood streets. There's not really any bumps or anything going on, so I couldn't really see the suspension. I guess I could feel the road a little bit more, and I sat way fucking higher. Oh, and also, like I expected, whenever I sat on the bike and started moving around, that spring did set down onto that perch perfectly. It just needed a little bit of weight or whatever. But then, so I got that all done and got it all put back together. Then I'm like, all right, cool. Now it's ready to go. But then whenever I was moving it around the garage, I was cleaning up the garage area, sweeping the floor. I had oil and gas on the floor and whatnot. As I was sliding, like grabbing the handle on the back of the bike and sliding it around, it was making a weird clunking sound. And I was like, what the fuck is that? Well, I had the spring tightened, but it wasn't set down in that perch all the way. Whenever it set down in that perch, I had an inch between the top collar and the spring. So every time I picked it up, it was just loosey-goosey. And I was like, shit, now I got to tighten up those fucking top rings, and those are super tight threads. It takes forever to move those down. You have no room. You can't reach in there. I could barely reach one finger in there to spin them, and then it got to a tight spot, so I ended up grabbing a screwdriver and just tightening it down as much as I could. Eventually got it down to where I could grab the spring, and the spring had a little bit that was catching on one of those teeth of the hammer rings or whatever. I was able to just turn the spring, and I was able to tighten that top collar, just twisting that spring, and eventually it got pretty tight. And then I brought that top collar down and hammered it tight. So now so the way I have it set up is basically this heavy duty spring is set to where it's as weak as possible, or not weak, but soft. If I can crank that top collar down more, I can make it even tighter. It's not going to get taller. Well, I guess it will be taller, because if it's tighter and more stiff as I pull that collar down, when I sit on it, it'll have less sag. But I think the sag is pretty good. I recorded a video of me sitting on it, but I fucked it up. I just kind of hopped on the bike and then sat on it. I couldn't really see how much it sagged, but I think it's good. I think it's good. I get on there. I can only do one tippy toe at a time, so I have both my tippy toes sticking down, only one toe's touching at a time, but I can bounce from one side to the other. That's how tall I wanted it to be. I wanted to be on my tippy toes. I want more ground clearance, more travel, and it just to be a little bit stiffer. Another thing is for wheelies, because I've always been talking about wanting to do wheelies and stuff. With that soft spring, I could pop it up. It has plenty of power. It'll pop it up and do what I want it to do. But a lot of my momentum was being lost in the suspension, just blowing down. Yeah, you're gonna need over, bud. I'm leaving you a gap, and then you turn on your blinker. You want to get in front of that pickup. There's no reason. You got room right here, bud. So, anyways, now it should pick up the front wheel a little bit easier. Should pick it up a little easier, and I didn't change anything with the carb, so it should run. It shouldn't be running any differently, really. But that I did, use my air hose to blow out my air filter. It's got a K&N air filter, so you're not supposed to replace them. You're supposed to clean them and put them back in. But I did spray that out. It wasn't that dirty. This thing lives on the road. Really, they get dirty when you're off-roading them quite a bit. And I've taken it off-road, but not through a lot of dust. I don't like riding behind people with all the dust and shit. But anyways, got the bike set up. Oh, and one of the blinkers was a little fucked up. Well, no, that was the other day. That was before I started riding it. Yeah, I got the blinker fixed, and what else did I do? I wanted to mount. I have a little ammo box, a little plastic ammo box, because my little tool holder is so small. It is nice. It's kind of tucked up, and you don't notice it, and it's not like in the way of anything. But it's just not big enough. So I don't know. I've seen other people, they get PVC or something, and they can make some brackets and put PVC so they can have a lot more room. I've seen another guy put another exhaust pipe on there, and it's a fake exhaust pipe, but you just pop that cap off. Sorry, I'm burping here. Got a little acid reflux going on. Pop that exhaust cap off, and then you can fill that exhaust with it, and it looks cool whenever it's not in use. Dual exhaust, but it's fake. But no, I got this ammo box, but there's so much shit in the way. I couldn't get I could get it mounted. I could drill some holes in the side of it and mount it, but then I couldn't open the lid without removing it, and that's kind of defeats the purpose of it. So I'm kind of on the lookout for some sort of tool case that I can put all my shit in, and it's not all, because right now that little tool area, it's got all the original tools that came with the bike, and then I got a extra pair of pliers, a little USB cord, so whenever I need to charge my phone, I can grab that, and then a towel, just in case you need to wipe off your visor or whatever, need to wipe something down, clean, roadside repairs. Sometimes you need to clean some dirt off something. But yeah, I really want a larger carrying case, but not something that's going to be up and in the way. I don't know what that would be, you know. But it would be so cool to be able to have like a whole ratchet kit with me, at least for all the, go through all the bolts that are on the bike and have a, socket for every bolt, and pliers and needle nose and, different screwdrivers and wrenches and what else would I need? I don't know, like a spare master link. If you guys are riding bikes, leave down in the comments, what you would take with you or what you do take with you. Um, just on any motorcycle. It doesn't have to be a dual sport. It can be just any motorcycle. Everybody that rides a motorcycle, you're gonna have an issue on the side of the road at some point in time, and being able to take care of it right then and there is useful. So, what are some other things I could put in my toolbox that I take with me? Obviously tools for every bolt and nut, master link, spare parts. What spare parts would I need? Maybe some more fuel line, some extra bolts and stuff in case you do, like, I don't know, you rip your brake line or whatever, you can plug it maybe. Trying to think of anything else. Bulbs, light bulbs, wiring kit, like a really small little wiring kit, because that's going to be another problem. Fuses, um, you know, if I for some reason I break my starting switch on the bike, it doesn't have a kickstart. So that's what I've heard a lot of people complain about, or they get a different starting switch and they mount it up to where, because right now it's kind of hangs down low, um, and it's a thin piece of plastic. It hasn't been a problem for me, but I can definitely see how, you know, riding through the woods or something, shit happens. And if it breaks that starting switch off, you once you turn the bike off, you're not turning it back on. Or those buttons they're old. It's from 1999, so it's old. Little plastic parts and little electronic components might start failing. So if you have a wiring kit with you, you can. Well, I mean, really, I could get by with a fucking pocket knife and a screwdriver. Take it apart, pull the wire, pocket knife, cut it open, and just put it on there. Now, this is another thing. I had one, and I lost it. It was a little air compressor. I don't know where the fuck I put it, but it was somebody gave it to us for a Christmas gift 2 years ago, and it's just like a little battery charging pack. It had a flashlight on it. It had like a strobe light on it, so if you're like stuck on the side of the road, you can strobe, let people know where you're at. And it had an air compressor on it, and it was pretty cool because it could air up to 100 psi. That's what it's rated for, but it would take all fucking day, to do that. But for a dirt bike or motorcycle, that was perfect, and it was small. It was pretty compact. You could charge your phone off of it, all kinds of stuff. So that was really cool. I guess I'm kind of looking to get another one of those. I don't know, if it had a jump pack on it also, that would be kind of convenient. But if I had this box set up the way I want it to, that's where I would have another little 12-volt plug inside that box wherever it's mounted, so I could just leave that in there charging, at all. Make sure it doesn't charge while the bike is off or drain itself while the bike is off or whatever, put power to the battery. But yeah, having one of those little kits would be nice. I'm trying to think of anything else I would need. If I got room, a tube, tire changing, parts. Obviously, I really do not like fucking changing tires. I tried to do my front wheel and it, or no, it was rear. No, it was the front wheel. That's the last one I haven't had any issues with the rear wheel. But that front wheel, just trying to get that fucking tube in there, I fucking pinched 2 tubes, and I decided it's time to fucking take it to a shop. But if you're out on a trail and you pop a tire and you're far away from home and have no signal, you don't expect to pop a tire or get a rock puncture or something. What am I fucking trying to say? A rock puncture or stick or something, or even a sidewall tear. I would rather have the tubes and the supplies needed to repair that shit on hand versus just being stuck in the middle of nowhere with no hope for anything. But the air compressor would be really cool because I could air it up for road and then air it. Like I could drive out to, there's a off-road park that I've been really wanting to go to after work one day. It's not too far. It's down the highway, probably 45 minutes or whatever. But Perry, Kansas, there's an off-road park out there, and I don't think you have to pay or anything. I think you just go out there and you can ride. You can have a good time. And I would love to go out there, and I'd love to be able to air down and be able to, hang out in the woods, not have any, traction problems, and then be able to air it back up for my ride home. I like the idea of riding your off-road vehicle or driving, whatever it may be, and then wheeling it and then driving it home. Trailers are one thing, but once I get this square body done, there is a off-road park. It's a newer off-road park, and they used to only allow caged vehicles, so no quads, no dirt bikes. You had to have a cage and a seatbelt, but they recently opened it up to where you can ride dirt bikes and stuff in there now, and there's some single track runs and whatnot. And I would love to get that square body fixed up enough that I could throw the dirt bike in the bed of it and take it out to that off-road park and just have a fucking blast. I got my pickup truck. I can go, slightly crawling. It's not a crazy off-road machine, but it is a four-wheel drive Chevy with lockers on the front. So I think it could get wherever I wanted it to go, and especially if I don't really give two shits about damaging it, But I don't want to pop a tire. I don't want to bend a rim. I don't want to, blow out a U-joint. Those are things I would try to make sure I had everything with me before I go out there and do that. But, yeah, just that would be so much fucking fun. Throw the dirt bike in the back, strap it down, take the wife and the kids out there, and just do some off-roading, and then, roll the dirt bike out the back and hit up some single track. I don't know. I need some buddies. I need some fucking buddies. Okay, I got my uncle. He's got a DR. He loves to ride. I can get him to go out and ride with me. I'm trying to get my fucking brother, old Kenny. I'm like, dude, you need to get. I'm telling him he needs to sell that fucking street bike because that's gonna do nothing but give you tickets or kill you. Get a fucking dual sport, whatever. I prefer a DR650. So I mean, a DR650 would be cool, but whatever. It doesn't matter. It's something you can wheel, and then me and him can go riding out together, and have fun on trails or whatever. Because he said he sold me that DR650, and then it was like immediately after he sold it to me, he's like, "I miss the DR." I'm like, "I bet you do." He's like, "You want to sell it?" I'm like, "No, dude, I love this fucking thing." I'm like, "I'm so sorry, but there's no way I could sell this and get another one. It's not possible really without throwing cash on top, and I don't have cash to throw on top. So, brother, I need you to get your own, and I'm not going to sell this one back to you. And if I did, it's going to be a hefty price. Um, and then I'm always, trying to get people at work excited about them too. They're not catching on, but maybe with this warmer weather coming in, I might be able to get a guy or two to grab a bike, and we can wheel together. It's easy whenever I have a bike, but trying to get somebody else to get one, yeah, it is kind of difficult. But that's another I love to ride it in. I let Kenny ride it this morning. I was like, hey, I put new suspension on it. Try it out. He can flat foot that motherfucker, both feet flat on the ground. I'm like, what the fuck? He's like, it's so tall. I'm like, yeah, but you are just sitting on it with no fucking problems at all. Like, and he's so light, there's no sag to it at all. Like, it probably feels like there's just, solid. There is no suspension. It's just solid when he's riding around on it. But not with me. It feels pretty nice. But I do got some plans. And yeah, I don't know. I might regret what I'm doing, but I'm never going to regret what I'm doing. I might regret, not having the money, but I'm getting new tires for it. I might get a new fuel tank for it, bigger fuel tank. Um, Tires, fuel tank. I might lower the foot pegs. A lot of people lower the foot pegs. I really didn't want to, just because whenever if I lean that motherfucker in the corners, that foot peg, having it where it is better than having it lower. But I think I'm going to go. It's not a sport bike. There's no reason I need to be leaning that far in corners and stuff. It's really just fun, is what it is. I can still lean pretty far, especially now that it's raised up a little bit. I can still lean pretty decent in the corners. So I might get lower in foot pegs for it. It will be more comfortable. It just lowers them 2 inches and pushes them either forwards or backwards, however you want to put them on there. But fuck, what was the other thing I wanted to get? Fuel tank. Oh, exhaust. I want to buy a new. They're cheap ass mufflers. I don't have, and I will never have $600 to spend on a fucking muffler. Okay, these mufflers, like the nice fucking mufflers or whatever you see, those are fucking expensive. Really fucking expensive. If you're gonna get a decent muffler, it's gonna be a $300 to $600 purchase that I'm not gonna do. I'm not buying a muffler for that much. They sell $40 ones that are like little cheap replicas that are probably gonna rust out and fall apart. But I would, I'm gonna hang on to the stock muffler. Also, I'm not getting rid of that fucking thing. I'll throw that up and behind the workbench or whatever, just in case I do, this other muffler does break. But I don't think I'm gonna have a problem with it. Maybe I'll paint it up to, because sometimes the factory paint on those cheap mufflers or whatever just doesn't hold up, and then it rusts out and gets bad or whatever. Maybe I'll take it apart and just buy a $40 muffler and then just try to make it a little bit nicer. Maybe put some because packing is pretty cheap, I believe. So I could just get some new packing and put upgraded packing in a super cheap muffler. It's just got to fucking quiet the thing down. But my uncle, he's got one of them expensive fucking mufflers, and his bike sounds like a total different dirt bike than mine. And also it flows a lot better too. I think it would be a significant performance upgrade, swapping out that huge, ugly piece of shit muffler. Like, it's so fucking big. There's no reason it needs to be that big. I don't know what the hell is up with that. I did not realize I have a car behind me. I'm just kind of driving through the woods with the car behind me. Whatever. Didn't see you there. We're going this speed, and if you want to go around, you can wait till I turn right here. But yeah, I got a few things in the works. I'm hoping everything works out. I think it's going to be after next weekend before I'll be able to purchase some some of those things. And then another thing I'm going to do. And these are things I don't want to. Well, this is a thing I don't want to do, but I kind of need to do it. I need to get a muffler for the fucking truck. My 92. It needs a full exhaust put on it, and I don't know how much that's actually going to cost. I'm going to do some pricing, and hopefully I can make it work out, but I might end up running up to Pick and Pull and trying to rip one off. I don't know, but I need to get the truck needs a better exhaust on it. It is hanging down. There is no muffler on it. It just got a catalytic converter, and I think that catalytic converter is pretty fucking rusted out, that it's not going to be good for the new exhaust. So, going to be doing a lot of things here at the beginning of the year, and it's going to benefit me for the rest of the year. So, I don't know. Hold on. All right, had to get checked in there real quick. I'm here. I'm at the place, ready to get loaded. This place is shut down. It's President's Day. Who the fuck celebrates President's Day? I mean, I guess it is a holiday or whatever, but nobody fucking nobody gets that President's Day off. The hell? But this place does. So I had to call a guy, and he's like, "Yeah, I can come up and sign your paperwork for you because I have to have it has paperwork. It's got to be signed by a competent person or whatever." So got to have him come up and sign my paperwork for me so I can head down to Alva. I already got my hotel room and everything. I'm not going to park in the Days Inn parking lot, I'll tell you that. Those motherfuckers, pieces of shit. I'll be parking in a different spot. Maybe President's Day's got more people off of work, and I won't have any issues. But that looks like it's going to be in the way. Anyways, I'm going to let you go. Adios. Keep all 18 down. I hope I entertained you enough. I really enjoyed this conversation. And if you enjoyed the conversation, I don't know. I do appreciate comments. If you leave a comment, I do like that. Also rate. If you could just rate me on Spotify, get on there, hit the little three buttons after you listen to a little bit. You can rate me 5 stars. I'm proud of that 5-star rating. And then on YouTube, if that's where you're at, subscribe. That'd be cool. I'm always looking to add subscribers. And hit the like button. I'd say share it, but sharing a podcast is kind of weird. I'm never going to share a podcast to anybody. So I don't expect anybody to share my shit. But yeah, anyways, if you guys like that, I had a great time. I'm glad you had a great time. Adios. Keep all 18 down. Talk to you later.